Welcome to Career Journeys, a series of videos by the Consortium for Public Education. Here we explore the career experiences and pathways of professionals from a wide variety of careers to help you think about the skills you'll need and the paths you might take after high school.
Hi, I'm Debbie Pixton with the Consortium for Public Education. Today I'm interviewing Rose Flowers, Community Engagement Manager at 9 Mile Run Watershed Association. Thanks so much for joining us, Rose.
Hi, Debbie.
So Rose, tell me about 9 Mile Run and your role there. What do you do as the Community Engagement Manager?
So, quick little background on our organization. We are a watershed organization. So if anybody doesn't know what a watershed is, pretend you're standing at your kitchen sink, you're doing some dishes, you've got your drying rack, and underneath that is sort of a pan of some sort, be it plastic or metal or wood. And all the dishes drip onto that little pan, and eventually all that water makes its way into one point that drains into your kitchen sink. So that's basically a watershed on your counter. A watershed is an area of land that drains to a common body of water. So that's a watershed. So we are a watershed association, which means that we do work in our communities to help protect the watershed and the waterways that water drains into. So as a community engagement manager, I, as you can guess, do a lot of work with the public. I talk to a lot of people. I have a lot of really great productive conversations with community members. And I also do a lot of education for kids and adults as well. And I really love that. I think that's a really, really fun way to connect with people and teach them about things they may not have thought about.
So Rose, how did you become the Community Engagement Manager? Can you tell us a little bit about your career path?
It's kind of a tangled web, as many career paths are for people our age. So in college, I studied environmental studies at Oberlin College, which is a little school in Ohio. And after that, I went on to graduate school in Arizona at the Arizona State University, and I got a master's degree in sustainability sciences. And there I did a lot of work working with the local community to figure out ways to make their neighborhoods safer and more walkable, and just more sustainable and environmentally friendly. There's a lot of issues with violence and kidnappings in the neighborhoods that I was working with, and it was really important to help build an infrastructure and a safe space for them. Things as simple as lighting the sidewalks, or even sometimes we had community walks at night to create empowerment for the community. And then I sort of took a hiatus. I worked some other jobs. I worked as an administrator at a natural foods co-op. I worked at YouTube for a while, actually, doing copyright enforcement. And that actually, I learned a lot of really important communication skills there because I was working with people I'd never met and would never meet across the internet. And then when I moved back to Pennsylvania, I got involved with 9 Mile Run. And the opening they had was not exactly what I wanted to be doing. I was the office manager, but I really loved the organization and I loved the work that they were doing. And I knew that eventually I would find my place at the organization. And it took a couple years, but then I got promoted to this role and I absolutely love it.
So Rose, what are some skills that make you particularly good at being a community engagement manager?
I would say that one skill that's really, really important, well, it's not exactly a skill, it's more of a trait, is to be outgoing. You have to be willing to go into a space that you've never been before with people that you've never met before and just talk to them about themselves and about yourself and be open to hearing their points of view. So that's one thing, and that's something you can work on as you grow. I used to be really shy. I never wanted to do that, but then I started to, when I went to college, I of course was thrown into the deep end and had to meet new people all the time. And I think that's something that you can work on is, even something as simple as saying hello to the person next to you in line at the grocery store, and just asking them how their day is going. If you're comfortable, that's one way to sort of work your way into having conversations with people that you've never met before. And of course, I don't go into any spaces that I don't feel safe. It's okay to be cautious. That's fine. It's actually better to be cautious than to not be cautious in some situations. And then I start to get to know the space, know the people, and then I feel more comfortable. And I've had some life experiences that have led me to feel that way, and that's okay. Another skill, and this is kind of a boring skill, but it's writing. I have to do a lot of writing to people, a lot of emailing. I have to, write letters to people, write blogs. So I've worked a lot on how to get better at my writing style so that other people can understand it better. And one thing that my grandfather taught me when I was younger, he was a very prolific writer. He said to always make sure that you write like you speak. Now, of course, you want to keep your grammar appropriate thing. You don't want to throw in slang or things like that when you are, or curse words, when you're writing to people, but make sure that it has a flow that feels like you. So if I'm unsure about something, I always read it to myself aloud, and that helps me figure out how to do it. I also recommend that for any students that are writing papers. That's a really good way to pull yourself away from the writing and actually, check for mistakes.
So how do connections between the environment and social issues come up in your work?
Oh, a lot. That's something that's really, really important to our work. For anyone who's watching this, who hasn't heard of environmental justice, look it up. It's a really important thing to be thinking about. And the basic concept is that people who are disadvantaged, or people of color, people who will live in poorer situations, often are more affected by environmental pollution or health degrading situations. So one example is Braddock. That's near our watershed. There's a lot of pollution in Braddock, and it's a lot of in Pittsburgh. A lot of it stems because steel workers, their homes were near the mills, right? So they had to get to work easily, and so they were, in essence, living in a polluted space just because of the necessity to be near where they lived. Another example of that is in Pittsburgh, the rivers used to be very, very polluted. And if you look along the rivers, you're not likely to find an old fancy house near the river. And that's because the people who had money didn't want to live near the river because it was so polluted. Yeah. So we do a lot of that in our work. A large portion of our watershed is in disadvantaged communities, and we work with them to find ways to help with things like flooding that happened in their neighborhood because they were built in a space that was prone to flooding to begin with, or how to deal with the pollution coming from the busway that runs right through their neighborhood. So it's at the top of the list of the things that we deal with every day. And I would recommend that any students around here, again, look up environmental justice. It's a really interesting topic to dive into.
So Rose, if I have students who are interested in environmental justice or specifically watershed work, what kinds of questions should they ask themselves to know if this might be a good fit for them?
Number one, are they interested in environmental issues? You have to be interested in environmental issues, and I would argue that everyone should be, because if we don't take care of the earth, if we don't take care of our ecosystems, there's not going to be anywhere for us to live, right? Super important. So yeah, are you interested in the environment? Number two, and this is one that people don't think of, but working for a nonprofit, you're not going to be making the same amount of pay as you would be making working for a corporation. So that's something I talk to a lot with my interns who are interested in this field. And they're, when they're trying to decide after college where to go, what to do, and I say it's really important to think about how important it is to you to be making a lot of money. And unfortunately, that's true. It's something you have to think about. Like, what do you want your lifestyle to be like? I mean, I don't make a lot of money. My husband doesn't make a lot of money, but we have a really nice house. We're comfortable. We have food on the table. We have everything we need, but we're not buying a Mercedes or a BMW. We're not going to Hawaii for vacation every year. So that's something really important to think about if you're wanting to go into nonprofit or environmental work. Another thing is, do you like interacting with people? If you're going to be working for a watershed organization, it's likely that you're going to be talking to residents, to people in the government, and you have to spend a lot of time interacting with people. So do you like that type of work?
What's one piece of advice that you would offer to students who are interested in pursuing a career in this field?
I'd say do as much reading as you can. Look things up on the internet. Find trusted sources that you can look to for information, and figure out what exactly you want to do in the environmental field. There's so many different ways that you could go. I mean, I have a friend who's an environmental engineer, and I could never do that. That doesn't seem interesting to me, but they work on, engineering different things in the world so that it can be more environmentally friendly or environmentally safe. They deal with a lot of regulations and code and things like that you have to do. I also have a friend who is, an ecologist who lives on a tiny island off of Hawaii and studies coral. So there's lots of different ways that you can go. And then there's me in the middle who works with the community members and does education. So think about that path, because working in the environmental field does not have one single path. It has hundreds, if not thousands, of ways that you can do that work. So really do a lot of research and see where you fit. And don't worry if that changes as you get older or as you learn new things. My path changed when I got to college, and I was exposed to different courses and different professors who had different perspective on things. So don't feel like you have to make a decision when you're 15 years old about what your life is going to be. It's okay to change your mind or take a tangent along the way.
Rose, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and experiences with us today.
Thank you so much for being here. It was wonderful.
For more information or to learn about other careers in the Career Journey series, visit our website and check back soon for our next installment. Thanks!